Alright, welcome back everyone to the channel. I hope you're all doing alright. We are gonna be continuing doing maybe a few more episodes on the RPG combat series before we break that one for a little bit. As I mentioned in the last video, but I got a few more requests, so I thought I'd try to throw in some more videos here. Someone mentioned bullet drop to actually make the arrow like go downwards, or like depending on how long you press the button, maybe do like a meter or something. And also quiver, having an arrow quiver on the back of the character to actually move the arrow from the quiver. Both of those, and the quiver thing should be fairly easy. The arrow drop I've never done, so let's see how far we get with that. I might just give up, but we'll see. Should work out. So yeah, that's about it. After that, my plan is to start doing some. Maybe I'll do that today as well. I'll start doing some UE5 videos. I downloaded it already. Haven't really played around in it, so we will see. But yeah, let's just jump into it. After I drink a bit of coffee, because that's required. It is Saturday and I am a little bit hungover, so sorry if I'll probably get confused every now and then in the video. So first you need a quiver. I got this quiver from, if we're gonna start with that part, I got this quiver from Sketchfab. Let's see, it's this one, CC attribution. So this is me attributing Amatsukast. This nice little bow, can probably use that as well. It is CC attribution non-commercial, so yeah, just so you know. But I'm using it for the tutorial purpose, so that's fine. Just download it. Download it from Sketchfab and import it to your project. I showed you how to do that in a previous video. The scale is sometimes messed up, so then you just need to get into, you can see I already reduced the build scale. Let's do 0.05. Oops. 0.05, 0.05. And that's probably better. There we go. So that's a quiver. Go into our character. Let's add static mesh. And if you have the quiver selected, you will get that already. Otherwise, just drag it from here into your character. And you could obviously just make it so that you don't have the quiver from the start. Just something like that. And we are gonna, so it's on the back, but right now if we don't parent it, it's gonna be weird. You see it's not parented right now, so it's just floating behind. So you need to parent it to a part of the body. So we're gonna parent it to why is that not working? Yeah, because it needs to be under the mesh as well. It wasn't, so spine 03, right? Spine 03 should be right. It's the upmost upward spine. Something like that. Let's see how that looks. And that looks alright. So good, what you can and so there are a couple of ways to do this. You could obviously just make it like yeah, depending on how you want to do it. Either you just make sure that you have arrows in the quiver all the time, look wise, or you could create like an inventory system where you see how many arrows you actually have in the quiver, but I've never seen that in a game, so I'm not really sure if that's a good way to do it, because it sounds like a good idea, but maybe it's just gonna be annoying in the game. Anyway, let's create ourselves an arrow. The arrow that we are currently using is shitty, so I'm just gonna drag these two meshes out. Something like that. Something like that. And we're gonna select both of these meshes, and we are gonna right click, and we are gonna convert actors to static mesh, so that will actually meld them together basically. And we will save them in models, important, weapons, bow and arrow, SM arrow, SM for static mesh, and let's do complete. Let's go into it and do the same for scale, 0.05, 0.05, 0.05. And that should give us an arrow. There we go. It's actually a bit long, so let's still do, let's see. Was that the wrong one? Yeah, that's better. It's actually still very long, so let's do 0.03. There we go. So there we have an arrow. And we have a master projectile from before. And we're using a shitty arrow right now, so let's do SM arrow complete. And it's gonna look a lot better. Oh. There we go. So now you actually have an arrow. And yeah, I'm just gonna take the easy route here. So we're gonna go to this quiver mesh, and we are actually going to do like this. We're just gonna merge them, so it's gonna look like you always have arrows in your quiver. You could obviously do like 1 for when you actually have arrows in your inventory, and an empty quiver when you don't have any arrows in your inventory or something like that. There are plenty of ways to do this. So I'm just duplicating the arrow. By holding Alt, I think. Yeah, muscle memory. Alt and dragging creates a copy. And let's just make them a little bit not all at the same height, so it looks a bit random. There we go. And select them all. And this one looks to actually stick out a little bit, so let's do something like that. Yep, looks good. So we get all the arrows, and we get the quiver. No, okay, apparently not. Okay, let's just group them. and select all. So we have our quiver. Let's create a new. Let's do this again. Convert actors to static mesh, models, imported models, weapons, bow and arrow, and SM quiver full. And let's do SM quiver full instead. There we go. Now you have some arrows. So that is looking alright. It should be a bit more upward, I think. If you're having problem placing stuff here, go to select pause animations. There we go. Because while the character is moving, it's sometimes hard to like move the parented meshes around. So that's looking alright, I think. And don't forget to actually unpause the animations afterwards. There we go. Good. And let's do. So what's gonna happen now? We need another mesh, I think. So this is the tricky part. So we have some arrows going on there. Oh, they are flimmering a bit. I think it's the textures. Yeah, fuck it, I don't care. So the first thing here is you would need some kind of animation that actually, the proper way to do it is probably when you go into this stance, when you go into like the ADS, you should have an animation that actually draws the arrow. I think this one did originally. I'm not sure. So let's go in and check. Animations. Aim. I'm just going to search for aim. Arrow. Walk. Show in folder. Okay, so we can probably steal this part. Well, actually, this is quite. I'm not sure why I'm not using this. Raw. So depending on how you want to do it, it's like, because obviously if you want to have a draw animation, it's gonna make it less responsive, because right now it's super responsive. So I guess that comes down to game design, but I'm gonna like show you how it's done, how you can do it, and then you will have to just decide how you want to implement it, basically. So let's use that animation. Now we are playing this animation, which is a way quicker one. So we could obviously do enable root motion. Actually, you don't have to enable root motion, because this is playing on the upper body, right? No, it's not. Am I mixing them? It's just that it's very quick. So anyway, so you could create an animation montage, and let's just see how that looks. let's do this one instead. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So let's do this one in the upper body slot that we set up in a previous video, and we probably need to rotate the animation as well because it looks like it's yeah. So we only want this part. So first, this draw animation, I'm gonna copy it, edited, and so we want it to this part basically. I'm not sure how useful this tutorial is. I'm not sure how useful any of my tutorials are because they are super like specific for this right thing and super specific to using this exact animation. So you just have to learn here, like this is how you modify animations basically, and this is how you can customize stuff to better fit your project. Like if you have an animation that looks partly good, you can modify it in these ways that I am showing you. That's the way I do it in my own project, like all the time. So sometimes I have people like asking me in the comments like, oh, what are those animations? They look really good. Usually they are like a mixture of maybe two attack animations that I've molded together, because you can also create your own montages, and like I've usually switched them up a little bit. I rarely buy an animation and then use that straight out of the box. I do it sometimes with some attacks that look really, because some animations look really well from the start, like the weapon masters animations. They look really well, so you never need to edit them. Anyway, so here we move from frame 92 to 51, and we only get this part. And I am also going to speed it up a little bit because it's super slow right now, so maybe that's fine. I'm actually going to speed it up even more, and that's good. And we are going to create any montage, and we only want it in the upper body, and we are going to use this montage here, and then we're going to need to edit it a bit more to actually see because you can see the characters like going down, so we need to take that into account. So what happened? Our character was leaning down, so to compensate for that, let's lean back. Actually, we can do it here. Let's do it here. So to compensate for that, let's lean back a little bit, and let's see what happens. You can see already it looks a little bit better, but we can do slightly more, and we also need to tilt the head like this. I'm not sure. You have to experiment until you get it. So let's see. A little more to the right. It's a good looking animation right now. So the head a little bit more to the right, maybe even a little bit more to the right, like that, and maybe even the spine a little bit. Let's do a little bit spine. Or you could obviously also blend. You could, yeah. Let's go with this. And it's looking quite alright. I think that's not too bad, right? I think that's alright, yeah. Let's go with that. Perfect. Just need some coffee. 20 minutes already, and we haven't even started doing the code. That's how I roll in my tutorials. Okay. So let's do. Let's do it. So in this montage here, we're going to create a new notifier called notify add arrow, or let's just call it arrow to hand. Perfect. So in our animation blueprint, event anim notify arrow to hand. So this will fire when we reach that notify in the animation. So whenever the animation reaches this point, that animation, this notify will get fired. And we need an event called, let's go to the range graph, custom event add arrow to hand, or let's say server add arrow to hand, and let's do another custom event and do MC arrow to hand. And I'm actually, there's one thing I myself am a little bit confused with, to be honest. So let's do, so this is going to be a multicast and this is going to be running on the server. Since this is a one-time, like, you probably don't need to do this reliable because it's not going to be it's not super important that you see that an arrow actually go to the hand. Like if it's the player that is doing it will always see it, and that's the most important one. So you could probably even not replicate this because nobody else is really going to care. But if you want to do it really well so that everybody could see it, this is how you replicate it. But you probably don't need to make it reliable because it's not super important that every client on the entire game world that you are currently playing in sees or knows about an arrow actually getting from your quiver to your hand. But we need another static mesh, and this static mesh is going to be the arrow mesh. And so in the master projectile we have this arrow mesh. So do we have an arrow variable? We probably want to do, okay, so yeah, I'm just gonna do like this. Okay, fuck it, this is gonna be a long video. So let's go to the enums and structs, because you could hardcode it, but we will probably have plenty of different ranged weapons, and if we have different ranged weapons, we probably will have different projectiles. It might not always be arrows, maybe you will have yeah, I don't know what else you could have, but that actually have projectiles. But yeah, you can do like a fire staff that fires fire spells, and that's going to be a different projectile. So but it's still going to be the same ranged weapon class. So enums and structs, weapon details, aim. We have the aim details, which is quite nice. So let's just do projectile, and it's going to be of the type master projectile object reference. Save that. We're gonna need to save everything. Master weapon. Everything should be saved. And now if we go into the bow weapon, we should have a projectile here somewhere, right? It's not updated. Aim details. Aim details. It's not here. Okay. Why isn't it there? And because we need to open up all of these, so 1 second. Yeah, I'm not sure. It's there now, so I'm confused. We are in our bow. It's not showing up here, but it's showing up here. So maybe I just need to close the weapon. Let's just close it. There's something that needs to compile somewhere. I'm just gonna restart my project and it should force compile everything. Okay, yeah, it's just me being me. So in the in details, make it of a class reference, not an object reference. So it needs to be the purple one. Then we go into our bow and we set the details. We set the projectile. I'm just going to do master projectile now, but you can obviously have children from the master projectile. And the reason is because then when we go into our player, you want to set static mesh from the ranged details break yeah, and you also need to go into the master projectile. I said it would be an advanced tutorial. I could make this so much easier on myself and on you watching, but right now I'm just bringing you pain for no reason. In our master projectile, you could also do a variable for the static mesh. Projectile mesh is also overused. Used projectile mesh. Used projectile mesh, and it's gonna be a static mesh. And the static mesh is gonna be the same. Arrow. sm_arrow. Is that correct one? That was a stupid name because obviously there will be a lot of the ones called arrow. Bow and arrow complete. I actually made it a different one. Arrow complete. There we go. So Was this a stupid way to do it? Yeah, that's just unnecessary. Delete this, and instead we are also gonna go to enums and structures, and we are gonna go to aim details, and we are gonna do projectile mesh, and this is gonna be a static mesh. There we go. Compile the master weapon and save everything. And there we go. Now we have the projectile mesh. So if we go into our bow again, we are also gonna set the SM arrow complete. And this is actually starting to become a good tutorial in this way, because now you can see the power of the blueprint structures here. Is like we can just keep adding whatever we need to the structure to keep it organized and nice. And this is a good way to always recognize stuff and pass information through, because now we have everything we need for different items here. So at this point we're just gonna set the projectile mesh, and because we don't need to pass the information through here, because both the client and server and everybody should already know what range details we are, because we are changing that on everything. So we are gonna set the static mesh, and we need a socket location to actually move it to. So also go into your character, oh, out of copy, let's make more. So at this point we need a socket in our right hand, right click, add socket, arrow add, add preview asset, arrow complete, and we are gonna move it so that it looks nice. It's a little bit big. Is it really that big? Couldn't I make it smaller? Something like that. Yeah, you will have to set this up nicer in your project. I'm just showing you how it's done. What did I call the socket? Arrow hand. And attach the components. Snap to target, snap to target, snap to target. And that should be it. And from the server, and let's see, I just want to try one thing, because I'm not sure if this is working or not, but from here, from the notify, I'm gonna go to the player, and I'm gonna call the multicast instantly, because we are replicating the animation. Because we already, since we are multicasting the animation from the start, we are replicating the animations. The server should already know, this should already pretty much be running on the server. So we shouldn't need to call the server, what did I call it? Add arrow to hand function. We might be able to just call the multicast directly. So let's see. MC add arrow to hand. I'm so bad at naming stuff. MC arrow to hand. So let's just see what happens now. We are definitely missing some step, but no. Yeah, so this is also a problem. You can see that it's actually working, and let's see if it's replicated. It is replicating, so that's nice. So this seems to work. Now I learned something today as well. So yeah, you can actually see the arrow on the client as well. Let's see if the client replicates. Oh no. Let's see if the client also replicates to the server. And it's actually working. That's good to know. So then you can do at least one step lesser. So this is replicating from the start, and this is actually sometimes I've had problems with this before, because if you call the server multicast here, it might actually call it twice. So that seems to work. Good. It didn't look very well. Didn't look very good though. So I think it's more important that it's aligned here. Because this is like where it's gonna be most of the time. So I would absolutely say like this is the part. Oh, it's such an annoying mesh because the pivot is like at such a random place. So, and yeah, as I said, you're obviously gonna have to. I'm not an archer, so I'm not really sure how this should look. But you usually hold it on the feathers, or do you? Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not an archer, so let's something like that. Let's see how that looks. And I think that's acceptable, but it's not acceptable here. And it's not, since it's not really parented, it's yeah, this is not looking too good. Maybe I obviously need to parent it to something. The socket is already there. Maybe I should parent it to the bow instead. So it gets drawn. So that part looks good. And when we reach here, we need to align the arrow better. It looks shit now. So at this point we need to, and we also need to remove the arrow once we've fired it. So how do we do that? Let's see. I would say that since the bow is static, we should probably align it, we should socket it to the bow. So let's do that. So because we have the muscle, right? Let's try. Let's see what happens. So we have the ranged mesh. We have the ranged mesh. Let's just see. Let's create a delay for just, I'm not sure, 0.5 seconds or something. And after 0.5 seconds, let's attach to the ranged mesh muscle. And it's probably not gonna work, but maybe. Yeah. So I'm gonna pause a little bit because the video is getting long, so I need to figure out how to do this. 1 second. Okay, so I know how to do it, but this is the limitations of using free animations. So I'm really I should have done this as a high quality tutorial in that regard from the beginning. But so basically at this point it looks like this. So far so good. I'm not sure how well it looks or how you can see it. It looks good, fairly aligned, and the only reason that's working is because I realized we should not use the draw animation, we should use the idle animation when we decide how it should for the arrow hand socket. So this is how it looks on the idle animation. The problem is we are using free animations and we are blending them, so it's not really working well when we are walking, because it looks good now, but as soon as we start to walk, you can see that the arrow is actually going in a weird place. It's not anymore aligned to the same thing, and it's because the animations are partly we're using different animations and they are that high quality and everything. So to work around that, when we are walking, so we need to determine, like, okay, what state we are in. And this is an annoying part, and I'm not sure how deep I should get into this, because if we're gonna release a game, we probably just want better animations. But do we have an event graph, don't we? Yeah, exactly. So we could just from here, we could just pull from here. We can just, if we are moving, we can move the, if we are pressing a movement key, we can also move the arrow to a new location. So we need a new arrow hand, and just copy selected socket and right add socket, and we'll do arrow and moving. Arrow hand moving, and we'll actually let's delete arrow hand moving. Copy. I want to copy this socket and I want to paste socket, because I want it to have the same rotation. So, and what did I do? I did something now, right? Did I destroy something? Did I copy the wrong socket? Arrow hand moving. No, there it is. Good. Perfect. So, no. Arrow hand moving. Add preview asset. SN arrow complete. And this is the moving animation, is it not? The front is good. That's not what I want. I want right. What's it called? Bow? Aim. Previous. Aim right. Oh, not mesh. What's happening? There. Preview animation. Aim right. There we go. So, here we can see the problem. So, for this mesh, we're just gonna use. So, for the moving, we are gonna rotate it. No, not like that. The moving is gonna be aligned differently. So the moving is gonna be aligned like this. That's better. So in our player animation, and the front and back are fine because we're not tilting, but for the A and D, if it's pressed, we should do a function for this actually. Range graph, custom. What's happening? Oh no, I got the bug again. Yeah, I need to close everything. 1 second. I kind of regret doing this hungover. And also, this was way more complicated than I expected it to be. From now on, I'm never gonna do free tutorials. I'm just gonna buy all the animations and I'm gonna do everything with that. So basically, I created this custom event, server, multicast, MC move arrow. And when we do this MC move arrow, which is a multicast, we are gonna attach it to the other bone, which I don't remember the name of because I have to close my project. This one, arrow hand moving, and snap to target, snap to target, snap to target. This is gonna be like 1.5 hour long. So mesh, arrow mesh is moved. Good. Good. Arrowhead moving. Snap to target. That's good. That's good. That's good. What do we do now? From here on, we call this when we are moving, and we also need one to go back. But when we can just call this one then, right? MC arrow to hand. Yeah. So in the event server move arrow, in the event graph, we need to call this server move arrow. We also need to call it, if we are doing D, And we also need to call arrow to hand. But from here we actually do need a server function. So custom event server arrow to hand MC arrow. So from here, so we actually do need this event. So it's going to be running on the server. It doesn't need to be reliable. This is going to be a multicast. This is going to be server. And once again, from the event graph, server arrow to hand. So whenever we release the movement buttons, we cast the arrow to hand, and if we walk left and right, we move the arrow. Let's see if that's working. So idle works fine, and moving works fine. So you can see it's working fine. And yeah, it's looking like shit when we actually aim. So you would have to, okay, I taught you the process. I'm not gonna do 20 more minutes of showing the same things, but that's how you move the arrow mesh wherever you want to. And obviously, like, if you buy a good quality ranged animation, you won't need to switch because the socket will be fine if you just do it by the hand, I would bet. So but this is how you can get around it. Otherwise, you can see it's still looking weird when we draw the bows, so I will probably do another one of these, move the arrow mesh. I will probably also move the arrow mesh when we press the fire. The last thing we actually need to do here is we need to also destroy the arrow whenever we are shooting. Which is, I'm not sure what it's called. Fire. What are we at? 53 minutes. I think this is the longest tutorial I've ever done. Fire. I'm not even sure what I'm looking for right now. Combat. Right mouse button. When we fire. No, left mouse button. What am I doing here? Is aiming is true. Shouldn't I be shooting? I have no idea what I've been doing here. Why am I only playing? Oh, I'm probably doing it from one. Yeah, see, I'm doing it from another file. So from here, we also need to get the arrow mesh, set mesh to nothing. Yeah, with a slight delay though. 0.3. And yeah, you can turn all of these things into variables. You could also, the correct way to do this is not to use a delay and set the static mesh. The correct way to do it is to set up another notifier and call this on the notifier. So yeah, I think this tutorial is maybe not the greatest one, but what it does, it show you how to basically take this information and do what you want with it. You could make this look a lot nicer if you spend some time doing it. I'm not gonna do everything, but what I mean is like I've shown you how to move the mesh, and I've also done this in other videos with weapons and with everything. So make sure to learn like what is happening here. We are moving the mesh, and you can do that with everything. Just move and attach the mesh wherever you want to with everything. Just do that plenty of times. That's how we solve like 50% of everything. So yeah, because obviously you need to do this on the, because right now it's working fine on the D, but it's looking shit when we do A. So you have to do that on the A as well. You can see it's looking alright, but so that's how you do it. At least I've shown you that now. I'm happy with what I've shown you. Just let me know in the comments if there's any questions and everything, and I'll try to answer them. But it's such a specific topic, this, so it's hard to make an actually great tutorial on it. It's like usually I do general stuff, and then you have to like adapt it to your own project. So yeah. Anyway, thanks for this video. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions or whatever, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.